These are my canvas blockheads. First things first, that one size does not fit all. Custom is actually custom. So that's why as a wig maker, I have all the wig canvas head sizes. So they actually range, the smallest I was able to find is like a 20. So they range from like a 20 to like a 24. So you can get them from like a 20 to a 24. The 24 is like the largest I can find. I believe that's the largest that they make. And so I got them all. And if you're wondering how I create this little method here, these are just like the universal measurements. So for instance, you have a 21 circumference. It just gives you the measurement for the nape, the measurement from the front to the nape, and the measurements for temple to temple around the back of the head. And this is not my method. This is a method that I got from, I think her name is Stylish by T on Instagram. She created this, and I find that it really does help me, and it makes my life so much easier when it comes to making wigs. And I do have a video, an old video on YouTube on how I do this method, but I have found that sometimes two people can be a size 21, right? And they may have a different front to nape measurement, and they may have a different temple to temple measurement. So to get a custom fit for each individual customer or yourself, you have to make sure that even if universally it says that their temple to temple should be a 14 at a 21, and it may be only a 13, you would still make a wig for them as a 13. That's pretty much it about the canvas heads, and these are on my Amazon storefront. I will be using my mannequin head here to show you all how to properly measure a head when you're trying to make a custom wig for someone, or to how to measure your head when you're trying to make a custom wig for yourself. The main measurement that I like to get is the circumference. So the circumference is around the whole head. The tape will start here and it will end here. So for example, if we have a measurement, right, we'll just bring it, make sure it touches that nape, the back of the head here, which is usually like where your hairline starts here, and make sure it's still at the back of that nape, and then we'll end it here. And you don't want to pull it too tight because you don't want to get an inaccurate measurement. So if you pull too tight, it will be off a little bit. So I will say she's a 21. She doesn't have any hair, so you really can't see where the temple to temple start. So, but usually it's like here and here. So we'll bring that around the back of the head, and then we'll do our temple to temple. That's gonna put us at like a 14. For the nape, you wanna go from wherever, I know she doesn't have any hair, so I'll just tell you. For the nape, you wanna start where like your hair starts and then your hair ends. So it's like where your hair starts and where it ends. So you'll see what I'm talking about. And it's usually like right about here. Her hair starts here and ends here. So that's gonna put us at a 4. A 4. So her nape is a 4. Her temple to temple is a 14. Her circumference is a 21. That front to nape. So the front of where her hairline starts to the back of her nape where her hair ends at her neck. So we'll pretend her hair starts here and make sure that's snug but not too tight. We're gonna assume her hair ends right here, and that's a 13. And I wanted to point out with her measurements, of course, she's a mannequin. Some of her measurements are going to be off because she's, not like a real human. And of course, we have nowhere to really start because she doesn't have hair. So for instance, we'll pretend that this is a real person and her measurements are accurate. Her measurements would actually go against what we have down as the universal chart for a 21 circumference head measurement. For a 21 circumference head measurement, it would usually, for the ear to ear, it would usually be a 13.5, but she gave us 14. Say she was a 14. But the universal chart would be a 13.5, and I'll provide you all with this chart as well. For her front to nape, it's a 13. So from the front to the nape, we measured at a 13, and the universal chart for a 21 circumference does say 13, so that's accurate there. But you remember when we measured her nape back here, she was actually a 4, but the universal chart for a 21 circumference says the nape should be a 4.5. But in this instance, we know this is our client. These are her exact measurements. So we would not alter these to fit the universal chart. We would alter these to fit her, to ensure that her wig is a custom fit. So don't be alarmed if the measurements are a little off from the chart that I give you. That happens in some cases because the head shapes are different. And for instance, in this case, our fake real client does have different measurements. So this was such a good example of what I mean if you run into a client that has slightly different measurements. They may be a half an inch off from the actual measurements. You will just adjust accordingly and continue making the wig.